Tuesday, Pistol is Peter, Triple Dust, it's Tier List Tuesday! Tier List Tuesday! Tier List Tuesday! Is it Tuesday? Oh yeah, it's Tuesday. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is Tier List Tuesday! I hope that's your day. Phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Today, big dog, for Tier List Tuesday, we will be talking about the
top rogue strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now.
Rogue is really fun right now. That's right, big dog. If you want to catch your opponent off guard, rogue strategies just might be the wave. And today, I'm going to be separating them in 5 different categories to get you better acclimated of the strength of these rogue decks. Top rogue, my friend, is Creme de la Creme. These are the best rogue strategies available. Solid choice right after would be nothing but a solid choice. These are some really good strategies too. Just not top rogue. Good enough to steal W's. This is where you get really wacky, but still good against the current particular meta. Takes a really good pilot, my guys. These are fan favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks. They just so happen to be strong right now, if you know what you're doing. And then everybody's favorite, Mamma Mia! Oh no, what are you doing, baby? These decks are a real challenge. One thing I will say though, your mama wasn't a real challenge when I got her in. So, the criteria for this rogue tier list is simple, my friend. We will be ranking these particular strategies on a few things. First of all is how well these strategies play into the particular meta against the top decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! I actually made a video about it last week talking about the meta decks, and statistically, I have been pretty correct. The top decks are Pearly, Kashtira, Mathmech, Dragons ironically, and Super Heavy Samurais. But of course, if you wanted to know a little bit more information about those particular strategies, go ahead and check out those videos. And those decks have been doing a pretty decent number on the format so far. The next thing we got to talk about is how well do these strategies play against some of the most popular cards in the meta, with some of the strongest hand traps being Droll Lockbird and Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, as well as kaijus being here now more than ever. You even get Santa Claus, boy, for the ho-ho-hos. This is a fairly fun meta, so let's jump on in. Ringworm the Apple Dragon stands for Apple Dragon Synchro, a deck that players have figured out using the Adventure Engine to summon a non-effect monster to pop off with your plays. Ironically, this deck can make cards like Mirror Jade, Bestial Dispeter, Though I do think that the big problem with this deck is not only doesn't play very well going against huge negation boards, something that is made crazily abundant in this meta, but Droll Lockbird as well as Ghost Ogre hit the Adventure Engine and all of your searches. I think overall the Ringo Dragon deck is good enough to steal some W's, a solid Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck that you can switch from into a Dragon deck or even into a Chaos deck whenever you want to. Overall, this deck is actually underexplored as a pile type deck and could raise its ceiling to a meta deck fairly soon, especially when we get the new Assault Synchron monster. Code Talkers as a rogue choice. Yo, there's actually a couple of things that I like about Code Talkers over decks like Mathmech and Marine Sets. The first thing is that the extra monster zone lock is real. This deck can do it with just 3 link monsters now. Because of the new Firewall monster, which actually has a solid effect, players are able to V-extra link you, something that has never been done before. Overall, I would say that the Code Talker strategy has a nice little disruption, being able to search Cynet Conflict, and of course can still make Access Code Talker in OTK. My guys, what do you expect? It is a cyber strategy, and this is probably the strongest version of that Access Code Talker OTK, because it's a Code Talker monster in a Code Talker deck. Dinomorphia actually did get some pretty good support from the new set. Not only did it get its own trap card, which is actually insane, my guys. My guy, it's an Omni Negate and then halves all damage. for the entire turn. We are not losing. On top of that, Dynamorphia got Trap Track, which can trigger the effect of your Dynamorphias. And it got Wannabe for you wannabe players that lets you set traps on your opponent's turn. I still think with all of that, it's still a strategy that takes a really good pilot though. Dynamorphia is still a little bit more difficult to go second with, but it did get a lot more help and did get some more support that puts it a little bit further ahead. My only beef is Dynamorphia Rexstorm can easily be outed with a Kaiju, though Ghost Ogre and Droll do not seem like very powerful cards against this deck. We was on the Dogmatica train, my boys. This deck can snatch up to 10 cards out of your opponent's extra deck. Dogmatica is almost an auto win when going first. When going second, it's well then. My biggest problem with Dogmatica is going second into a banish board. If your opponent makes a monster like Cashier or Rise Heart, using the effects of like Ultimate Slayer or summoning Diviner of Herald turns off a lot of your options to be able to break your opponent's board. It even turns off your most powerful card in the Near Servant. That is no bueno. So Drytron is extremely interesting, and allow me to explain. Most hand traps look ridiculously bad against this deck unless it's Droll and Logbird. That Ogre, it's not gonna help you too much. Also, the Kaiju monster special summon, and there's an answer for that. This particular deck can summon Vanity's Ruler, which not only prevents your opponent from using cards like Gabiru if they ever played it, but you're not breaking this board easily. And just so you thought you were gonna Dark Ruler that, this deck can search a Trap Negation to stop Dark Ruler no more. This deck's actually solid. Its weakness, macro cards, Pistios. But overall, I think Drytron is a fairly solid choice, my guys. Bro, as long as you believe Bestials aren't real, my guy, you're in check. You're good, you're golden. Yo, my guy, just summon Black Magician of Chaos against a monster heavy deck. I'm looking at you, Super Heavy Samurai, and you're winning. So Evil Eye just topped a national event, which is actually one of the highest level events in the game. What I like about Evil Eye is its built-in resistances to a lot of hand traps being used inside of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and also its ability to be able to smoke screen out. The particular Evil Eye deck that actually did work cited in an entire Mass Mech deck to throw off a lot of what the players were doing to be able to beat it. I think that this deck is another really solid Yu-Gi-Oh choice. If you know what you're doing, this deck can be smoke screened to a lot of other strategies because of the generic cards that you can use, and is fairly powerful. I actually even have a video playing it, so go ahead and check that out, as it is a really, really fun deck to play. And I did it with under $50. Exo Stepsisters, my guy. They found the dryer, and they're gonna wash every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Droll, don't care. Ogre, barely care. Your life points should be scared. This, in my opinion, is a top rogue Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck again. What I absolutely love about Exo Sisters is Dimension Shifters, my boys. This card can literally ruin a lot of the top decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And as you know, Exo Sister can play this card extremely well, disrupt the opponent, but also, because of the new Spirit monsters, it can make Exceed monsters with ease and break boards with Dark Ruler No More and Zeus, which is really powerful in this Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game right now. I think one of the biggest things that goes for Exo Sister right now is that not a lot of people are playing Lightning Storm and Evenly Matched, because it's not necessarily good against negation decks, and that's where Exo Sister can actually thrive, taking full advantage of that and then breaking boards and making its own. Generators, my guys, unfortunately, I don't necessarily see a good game plan for this deck going second, and also its opening play does lose to a Kaiju, unfortunately. Losing your new Generator Exceed monster to one of those could spell game, as well as your Field Spell being very counterable to Ghost Ogre. I would say, though, this deck does have its benefits. It's a deck that takes a great pilot. If you can maneuver through that, Generator is a fairly powerful Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck that can do some damage inside of the game. Gold Pride is actually annoyingly good. Yo, this deck is actually good. Hey, yo, guys, this just in. Konami made an archetype that's not War Rocks! Let's go! I actually think that Gold Pride can be a deck that stands on its own, or you can play Gold Pride Punk. This deck can ironically play fairly decent against Ghost Ogre, though I would want to watch out about Ghost Ogre on Roller Bowler. Won't let you, Fusion Summon, same thing with Leon, and also can be Droll and Lockbird. But this deck's resiliency, its ability to continuously get hand traps in its hand and make really good boards while disrupting the opponent, top rogue. Pinballer allows you to be able to not only get rid of your opponent's cards, but equip them without targeting. That is invaluable in this Yu-Gi-Oh card game. I think the only genuine downside for Gold Pride is that you're almost guaranteed to lose in the time every single time. You're not winning in time, my guys. Bro, just make the games as quick as your sex life and you're good. You are gonna win everything. Dark Roll is still good enough to steal W's, but keep in mind just about everyone is playing Droll and Lockbird. That really has to hurt. What I love about Dark World is that it can literally trade those negation boards with Grapha. You're literally discarding Grapha and then gaining its effect forces them to negate the Grapha to keep their monster, and that's when you swoop in and then break their board by summoning Grapha without activating an effect. Heroes right now is a deck that I think is good enough to steal W's. Master Hero Darklaw going first against any of those decks that I just said is extremely powerful. Same for Destiny Hero Plasma. My only beef with the deck would be going against negation boards. You're going to need to find a way to equalize it. Probably Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Chalice will be your wave, and then control the game from there. My guy, it gets even wilder when you go Dark Law and give your opponent a Dark Angel. They ain't Dark Ruler No More. You pretty much win the game. I think a pure Ice Jade deck is really interesting, especially with the new Ice Jade Agrine run, but I would overall say that that deck is a real challenge right now. There are some other decks or other water decks that would be a little bit more powerful. It's ironic that Labyrinth was one of the best decks in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and here we are. I think that Labyrinth's biggest problem is the same as Dinomorphia's. Going second against those negation boards is a lot harder. You do have some cards to work with. I would think that Forbidden Droplet is fairly good because when you activate your normal trap cards, your opponent chains those negations. You can send those trap cards to the graveyard for Droplet's effect, allowing you to be able to negate those monsters and get rid of them, but now you're relying on a 2-card combo. Wannabe does help this deck, but overall, I would say that it's just a solid choice. It's just still crazy how far Labyrinth has fallen. The biggest thing about Labyrinth is that when it goes first, it can literally destroy almost any deck in the game, but going second against combo decks, God, it's tough. My mommy milkers, guys. We'll get it back one day. At this current time, because of how hand traps have changed, Droll and Lockbird being pretty good against Marine Cess, as well as Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit and Kaijus, I would say that this deck takes a really good pipe. In no way, shape, or form, this deck is bad, just like how any of these rogue decks can compete and be extremely good. But right now, Marine Cess, all of the things that it has going for it, well, there's a lot of things going against it. One thing I will say though is that new Ice Jade Agrine, that might be Marine Cess support low key, my guy. Makanko is easily one of the combo decks that is good enough to steal W's. I have to say that if you are a combo deck that can stop Dark Ruler No More, and this deck very much can because it can search Libromancer Intervention, it could be a pretty decent deck inside of the meta. I actually played Nimlaria last weekend at my locals. It was extremely fun. It was yo. Bro, look, look. Here we are. Nimlaria, the card is good. Bricking is unfortunately, this deck is not great right now, but with the new support coming out in the new set, getting 2 more level 10 beast monsters, that actually will help a lot. I think overall the biggest problem with Nimlaria is that it doesn't have a great going first board. It's pretty much a going second OTK type Grin Maju deck, but I could also see some other variants popping around to be fairly competitive and maybe fixing that bridge and bridging the gap. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit just so happens to be really good on face-up continuous spell and trap cards. You know, the face-up continuous trap card that the deck really needs in Ninjutsu Art Dancing Leaves. This deck definitely takes a really good pipe. Going first, your Book of Moon cards can go off to prevent your opponent from comboing, but overall, ninjas against a negation board, it does not do enough to win here. On top of that, even being able to Dark Ruler No More your opponent, this deck doesn't have the capabilities to clear that board, so you're still in the same spot. Nothing really changes with Plunder Patrol. I think my biggest beef with this deck is that it does feel a little bit power crept. Even with the new monster in your Plunder Patrol ship Jord, that card does a lot, but not enough. Overall, Ogre connecting with your Plunder Patrol monsters does not feel good, but some of the other things in the format check out. You just gotta beat a going second negation board, which sometimes this deck can do with Kaiju, sometimes... Rescue Ace, my boys! Nacho man. Is it nacho or macho? Holy shit, I think I've been saying this wrong the whole time. Who wouldn't want to be a nacho man? Like, nacho's better than macho, right? Regardless, guys, this deck is cheesy and it's also a real challenge. I would not invest my resources into this deck, at least into the new set, and probably a whole nother ban list. Rika is still a very solid Yu-Gi-Oh choice, mainly because the negation boards have to respect their monsters getting tributed for effects. Droll and Lockbird, that's alright, but you do have to worry about Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit destroying your Rika field spell, so that's probably your biggest plight. But no, that's pretty solid. Solomon Great ironically did top another regional. I would still say really good pilot, though. We gotta start looking at these cyber strategies. Is access code talker really the problem here? Solomon Great's actually in a pretty interesting spot. Not only did it top for a YCS a little bit earlier, it topped a couple of events over the weekend. This deck does dodge Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit as well as Droll and Lockbird. The Kaijus could hit it, but its best thing is that it can play a ton of hand traps and it can recur Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I'm not gonna put it in real challenge. I'm gonna say takes a really good pilot. Overall, I can't wait for the new Solomon Great support. That might be a genuine help to the strategy. But until then, I'm still on wait and see mode for this deck. It's currently proving me wrong at it being a bad deck. Maybe it could be good enough to steal W's or even a solid choice very soon. Sword Soul, guys, I mean, come on. What are we talking about, my guys? Sword Soul is one of the best decks, and this isn't Copium. It's actually a really, really good deck. My guys, when all else fails, realize you trade well with most hand traps. Droll and Ogre do not hurt you, and just summon Chaos Angel to your side of the field and win the game. Sword Soul also has a really good negation board matchup, using Vishuda to force your opponent to trade with some silly interruptions and then countering with Heavenly Dragon Cycle to get you the cards you need to keep extending. Now, this might be my Copium carrying me here, but I've actually seen a couple of tier limit builds popping up, and I would have to say that this deck is ironically a solid choice. As we know, hand traps do not affect tier limit. It is the reason why hand traps were played a lot less. Droll and Ogre are no exception to the few. Ogre being able to destroy the monster, that could work sometimes, but oftentimes a good tier limit player is able to play through it. Let's also not forget that the Kaiju cards don't really solve the problem that this deck does provide. It also has graveyard disruption through the Ashizu cards, and I don't know, I think its only bad matchups would be against Kashtira and Macro, and that's probably why people don't play it as much. Oh yeah, and then of course there's the Vistials, but those aren't as popular, right? They don't exist. Tellarknight was a fun experimental deck, but I haven't really seen a lot out of it. I would say that it takes a really good pilot. I know that guy, the Tellarknight dude that posted all my videos and stuff, he's gonna be like, yo, it's way too low. But yeah, this deck's losing to Droll, lose to Ogre, lose to Kaijus, lose to whatever. The turn skip, not as consistent, and its inboards not as incredible as some of the other combo decks. But still a really fun deck to play and still can be really good in the right player's hands. This is my Copium so far. I think Chaos is better than what it is, but right now it is in the real challenge category. The reason why I like Chaos is because it's pretty good against negation boards, the Thunder Dragon variant. Putting light and dark monsters to the graveyard is really easy. Forbidden Droplets helps you facilitate that. And this deck can actually just keep summoning huge monsters that are stronger than those negation boards. The drawback for this deck, it doesn't go good going first. But hey, summoning Chaos Angel Pass might be the thing, right? Yeah, I'm coping here, am I? And lastly, I think Trap Tricks is good enough to take W's. Problem with Trap Tricks going into negation boards, just like any of the other back row decks we've talked about, is a little bit of a hassle. But overall, I think if this deck goes first, it's almost guaranteed to win, as it's extremely hard to play against it. I would say, though, this is probably one of the best back row heavy decks because it can do Dark Ruler No More Zeus, and that can be extremely powerful. It's one of the best budget decks in the entire game, so it's a really solid choice for players getting into it. And that's all that I have for the Rogue tier list post Cyberstorm Access, big dog. I want to know, where do you think I got wrong on some of these strategies? Did I rank them a little bit too high or too low? Also, is there a strategy or a tier list you would like to see? Go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section. But until then, you can check out these videos as I'll catch you on the next one.